Boa tarde, estamos de volta. Sou muito feliz de dar as boas-vindas a todo mundo, boas-vindas de volta ao Congresso Música Poética, para a nossa última jornada, a jornada de encerramento do Congresso, que tem sido incrível e tem sido bem intenso. E eu estou muito feliz de poder apresentar os próximos convidados, são pessoas muito especiais para mim, eu tive a chance de ser aluno deles quando eu estava no meu mestrado nos Estados Unidos. Professora Roten Gilbert e professor Adam Gilbert. Eles vão apresentar para a gente a palestra da tristeza, a simetria, o simbolismo retórico na canção do século XV. E eu vou apresentar eles rapidinho para vocês. A Roten é professora de prática da música antiga e de musicologia na University of Southern California. Estudou flauta doce no Mannes College of Music em Nova York e também na Escola Civica de Música de Milão, e tem o doutorado em música, em performance, em práticas de performance da música antiga na Case Western Reserve University. O Adam também é professor na University of Southern California, ele é professor associado de musicologia e diretor do programa de música antiga. Ele recebeu o PhD dele também pela Case Western Reserve University e foi professor de Stanford. Os dois ganharam juntos o prêmio Thomas Binkley Award pelos feitos dele, tanto artísticos como acadêmicos dentro da universidade, e juntos formaram o grupo Caramela, que é um grupo de música antiga especializado na música dos séculos XV e XVI. Então, eu estou feliz de poder passar essa palestra para eles. Fiquem, depois vão ter um concerto com os dois também tocando flauta doce e gaita de foles. So, welcome, Roten, welcome, Adam. We're happy and looking forward to hear from you.
Obrigado, boa tarde.
Hello, hello.
So, good afternoon, everybody. Rotem and I will be going back and forth a little bit as we talk. And our paper today is From Sorrow to Symmetry, Symbolic Rhetoric and 15th Century Song. And I will just say a couple of things before we start that I think are important to know. One, in todos los tiempos, retórica y música es dos irmãs, two sisters, always, right? And so they're seen as related, but in different ways. In the Baroque period, música barroca era esta idea in música poética. This is a new idea in the 16th century. From 1533, Nicholas Listenius. Tres tipos de música: música práctica, música especulativa, y hoy música poética. And so there is un sistema de música y retórica. Tres causas de retórica: deliberative, judicial, y per música, demonstrative or epigeictic. This means if I want to demonstrate the text, if I want to say I'm sighing, suspiratio, right? If I'm running, I'm happy, I'm so sad, to make the music fit the text. So that's demonstrative rhetoric. The idea of 5 canons, or cinco reglas, is the idea that, there are inventio, dispositio, estilo, memoria, pronunciazione. So the 5 different ways of doing things, both in retórica and también in música. And also 5 parts of an argument: proposición, narración, confutación, interrogación, y confirmación. I can make a Bach fuga like this. The idea of tres niveles de estilo. I can have low, middle, high. High style is fuga. Fugue like in Bach. Middle style, martial. Low style, zampoñas, bagpipes, shepherds, etc. Okay? And there's also an idea of figuras. In retórica, figuras, if I want to make an augmentación, es una gran causa, diminución, no importa. Okay? But in this sense, madrigalisms, I can make something running, I can make something slow, fast, the idea that the music should fit the text. Before the 16th century, nobody talks about this. So does that mean there was no rhetoric? What? No madrigalisms? No running, 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 no sighing, sighing, no word painting? In fact, we have many other ideas about rhetoric in the 15th century and before. One, they don't say there are 5 parts of an argument, non cinco, cuatro partes de un argumento. And they talk about not word painting, but symbolism or amplificación, to amplify what the text is. Not just to demonstrate it, but to make it larger and bring out things. And we'll talk just a little bit more about that. So far, so good? Is my Portuguese just horrible? Thank you. Okay.
No, great. Thanks a lot. That's a pleasure to listen to Portuguese.
Okay. So in the 15th century, there was an idea that comes all the way back from ancient time, of the idea of cuatro niveis de interpretación, 4 levels of interpretation. That means anything you said, any text, could have a literal meaning, historical, literale, an allegorical meaning, allegoria, which alea means other meaning. What is it? What's the other thing it means? Tropological or moral, morale, and anagogical or mystical, mystica. For, per ejemplo, literal, Jerusalem, está en cidade. Allegorical, está en iglesia, it's the church. Jerusalem is the city literally, but allegorically it's the church. Morale, it's the almas de personas in the church. So it's moral, what does it mean to me? And mystical, it's the cidade in heaven. So literally, it's just a thing, it's what happened. Allegorical is the other meaning. Tropological is what does it mean to me? And anagogical is the mystical, where is it leading to? What's the secret? We also see this in Hebreo. And there's an acronym for this, PaRDes, which means garden, and también paradiso, which is the same, just words for the simple meaning, peshat. Remez is the clue, the hint. Derash is to seek for something, and sod is the secret. So same thing. This meant that anything could be interpreted. So if I sing a dirty song about a girl I really think is cute, she can also be the Virgin Mary in heaven. And this is a concept that everything that I feel in my senses can lead me up to a higher idea. And so any piece of art, any piece of music, my senses all lead me upwards to something greater. Another concept is levels of style. Now, in the Middle Ages, there was a concept of level of style, that high style characters had high attributes. Kings, riding on horseback. Middle style are things like farmers with their cows. Low style is shepherds. And you'll see this played with all the time. In the Baroque period, Monteverdi talks about extreme high style, middle, and low. Everybody uses this. But another way 15th century people thought of the tres niveis de estilo is that there's heaven, human, and lower animal. So all kinds of ways, and everything can lead upwards to this place you're aiming for by doing things earthly. So with that in mind, it's more important for a 15th century composer who's also working in the church, for instance, rather than just painting the meanings of the words, to perhaps make an amplification of circles, like, for instance, the Wheel of Fortune. Here is the Roda di Fortuna, and there is Fortuna, but the Roda di Fortuna has its 4 places. Those can also be the 4 squares of the universe. They can be the 4 Gospels. They can be all kinds of things, and Fortuna is also the Virgin Maria because of allegorical meaning. And not only that, the entire universo está en círculo. And también la música está en círculo, and la universa está en círculo de 2 octavas. So everything, music, is related to the entire universe. So rhetoric, rhetorica, is not just to express my feelings, but to give an amplificación de la sensa de la testa. So for today, we'll talk about 4 pieces of music. Rotem will talk about 2 songs from the 15th century, in the voices of women dealing with suffering, and how the circles create something. And I will afterwards talk about 2 songs and how symmetry and circles amplify the text. And with that, to you, Rotem.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, so here's my first example from Christine de Pizan, the poet, late medieval poet. And you're going to turn the slide for me, Adam. I'm speaking from Israel. Adaming is from LA. Thank you for turning the page for me. And here's Deux Anglaises, a ballade poem written by Christine de Pizan. She wrote so much literary work, but there's only one song that was set to music by Gilles Binchois. And this is a very painful text. Anguished grief, fury, madness, misfortune, torment. And I'm stressing those last words in every sentence. Darkness, death. And why is she in so much pain? She doesn't know what to do. Look at the last sentence in this refrain. She says, I don't know where to be. And I can't be healed and I can't die. I'm in the middle of this. Can you turn the page for me? Christine de Pizan was writing this anguished point of view and through her own story and her life story. She became a widow at age 25, having to support 3 children by herself. She became a professional court poet for Charles VI, married very young. Can you keep going? And we see her in her study. Here's a noble lady writing, and what she's interested in is also writing about how women are misrepresented, especially in Roman de la Rose. Can you keep going? And here she is. This is from a manuscript from 1410, and you can see her in the middle, and we have a detail. If you go next, the detail of this manuscript is here's Christine de Pizan in the middle, handing her manuscript to her patron on the left. This is Queen Isabel of Bavaria, who's receiving this work as a New Year gift. So all of the visual and her text and the music that you can see right here are all interconnected. They all have a rhetorical symbol. And here's Deux Anglaises, this first sentence from the cantus line. If you look at the very left, and I don't know if you have a cursor, Adam, if you can show what's called the time signature. It's called the mensuration time, showing you a circle. And Adam will talk about this important circle. It's a perfect time. It's the symbol of perfection. But it also has a slash in the middle, showing you that this perfect time, counted in 3, needs to move faster. But this anguish, grief, you see those first 3 notes in the beginning? Well, they are breathes. So it should be that you count 3 breathes. 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, down. But they are colored, so they're diminished. So right away, there's a problem with this piece. Let me show you the addition. So keep on going. Click to the addition. One more. Here we have the addition. You can see it a little better. There's right away what we call a hemiola. Dum, pum, pum, pum. But the piece is in 3. And every time a section ends, it's on the word torment or on the word madness, or this is the way the piece cadences. Right? Let's hear, you'll hear the piece without the text. The text is only given to the top voice, again by Gilles Binchois.
I think there are 2 measures of intro if you want to sing along while the score goes by as well. It's like 2 metronome marking measures. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, you get a little bit of idea of this chanson, text by Christine de Pizan, written by Jean Bonchois, and the ending for measure 43 always says the same text. I can't heal and I can't die. I'm in between, the state of in between. Can you keep going? Here we see her writing and advising others, and keep going. And these very rich manuscripts showing her with her son, Jan de Castel, then onward. And we see her in her city. It's called the City of Ladies. And she is surrounded, and let's look at the detail in the next slide, with 3 ladies who are advising her. And these 3 ladies are reason, rectitude, and justice. And they're helping her build a city of ladies, city of women. How do they do that? By her writing about women. Can we keep going? And if you're interested in it, this is a fascinating way of learning on the history of women, spoken from reason, and then by rectitude and by justice, giving us the stories of ancient women, Hebrew and Christian women, and then female saints later on. Can we keep going? Another poem I'd like to talk to you about is Comme Femme de Conforté. I can't say who it's by. It's an anonymous setting. It has the flavor of the Christine de Pizan, again set by Bonchois, but we don't know who wrote it. And it's another unique song that is written from the point of view of a woman. And again, this woman who's speaking is déconfortée. She is in distress. She has no day in her life has any hope. And I'm sorry that this is such strong writing. Everything is misfortune. And how does she end? The first verse, I desire death, morning and night. Désirer la mort, mais espoir. So this woman, and this is called a rondeau setting. It's 6 lines of a rondeau. Again, very unusual for the time. And even the rhyme scheme in here is quite unusual. But Bonchois suits it into the music, and this becomes one of the most popular songs in Europe. How do we know it? Let's keep going. We see it in manuscripts being written over and over, and the manuscripts are beautiful. This is the Chansonnière Cordéphone, where you see Comme Femme de Conforté, and it's when you open it, it's in the shape of a heart. And when you close it, it fits in your pocket, and you put it next to your heart. The song is very painful. Fin d'amour, courtly love, poetry can be very intense. It's not necessarily Cinderella happily ever after in this kind of 15th century song. Let's keep going. And these manuscripts are very ornate. I'll show you them very quickly. Adam will keep going. Here it is in the Mélo Chansonnière, the same music and the same text copied from one manuscript to the other. That's how we know it was so popular. Here it is in Dijon, and we keep on going. Let's just play it for you. And let's listen to the song again. It's in what's called circle time, perfect time. And the tenor is the one that survives in later, what's called reworkings, settings, new settings that composer took upon them to set this discomforted woman.
And we might add that this song is very unusual, that it's a symmetrical rondeau, that it's unusual that it has 6 phrases, which is absolutely the only one rondeau like this. And the rhyme scheme is also not a rondeau rhyme scheme. So it's right in the middle at the end of the first page is exactly the middle piece of the song. And it goes up, ud, re, mi, fa, sol, la, boom, la, sol, fa, mi, re, ud, right in the middle. There's a little special moment. And I'll play it now.
Okay, so just like the previous song, it ends in measure 25, always with the same text and the same music, saying, I desire death, morning and night, even when the next phrase comes in. So focus on this tenor, because other composers, and let's go to Agricola, take the tenor, drop the cantus and the bassus, and they are the instruments that we play this repertoire. And Gilles Binchois is on the right, playing his harp. Dufay is on the left. They're buddies. Gilles Binchois is a court composer from 1460. Keep going. And one more. And here is a duet by Alexander Agricola. This is in the Segovia manuscript. If you look at the tenor, same tenor as Binchois. Agricola adds one cantus stop line, very ornate, and drops the text. But now the tenor is augmented. It's set much slower, almost twice as slow, to fit the diminutions and the divisions of this 15th century. This is written about 1490. So this is Adam and I'm playing it, so you can hear it on recorders. But this could be done, we don't know, it could be done on organ, lute and harp, viols, viola da gamba, recorders, etc.
Voice.
No text. Okay, so here's the femme de comforted tenor, discomforted, a woman all in pain. The tenor is augmented with many techniques of this late 15th century style in divisions by Alexander Agricola. But he didn't write only this duet. He also wrote it for 3 voices and for 4 voices, always without text. But here it is in 4 voices in a German manuscript, Berlin 40021. But if you look at this page, on the bassus line on the right bottom side, there is some text, and it's in Latin. So someone superimposed maybe a Latin text. And what is the text about? Let's look at the text for a second. The text is in Latin, and it's about the Virgin Mary. So the tenor line is about a woman in sorrow, discomforted, wanting to die day and night. But the new text superimposed on the bottom voice is Hail Mary, the Virgin, raised above the stars. And this is what's called contrafactum, a song that would have been known at the time and associated with a sad woman. and a new text put on top of it, celebrating the Virgin Mary.
Maybe just I'll add, Rotem,
Yes.
not just any sad woman in Comme Femme de Comforter, she's the saddest woman in the world.
Saddest. There is no other woman who is sadder than her, right?
Because death has taken her lover.
And who is this lover?
Well, in theology, Mary and Jesus are also mother and son, but also spouses.
Yeah, so this ambiguity. Okay, so let's look at this four voice. Again, the tenor stays the same. Can you change the slide? And we see it in Bassevi. And here it is, Alexander Agricola. You will hear Ensemble Charmella playing all four voices. Look at the tenor. Now perfect time has disappeared. We're in duple. Dum, bum, ba, da, da. But it kind of sounds like it's in three. So there's an ambiguity between three and between two. Let's hear it. Okay, Comme Femme de Comforter in four voice. I'm going to say just one last thing. And Adam, maybe I can just talk briefly about the Isaac, but maybe we won't play it because I'd like to go to your example. Is that right, Adam? Yes? We will keep going, and I will show you that, of course, the image of the Virgin Mary and her, and maybe you can keep going to the Isaac, is very important, celebrated with instruments. And Isaac takes the image of Comme Femme de Comforter, this sorrowful woman, and turns the piece into a whole cyclic mass. So I won't show you maybe the music for today, but if you're interested, the entire mass is on IMSLP, printed by Petrucci at the time, and it takes the tenor of Comme Femme de Comforter, and in every movement, it does something slightly different with a tenor in order to augment the text, which is the sorrowful woman, full of anguish.
Maybe just point out that in the very last movement of the Mass, the Agnus 3 is very famous because it goes from 4 voices to 5 voices, and 2 of the voices are just making an ostinato, an emblem, of the yam pam pi da dum. It happens over and over again, constantly in repetition in the tenor and in the soprano. And it's sort of, once you recognize that yam pam pi da dum, everybody knew the song. And this Conflante Comforter became the most associated piece with the Virgin Mary in music up until into the 16th century. And I'll say one more thing, if I might, Rotem, is add the notion that there was this premise: if I could for once feel the sorrow of Maria, if I could just even one moment feel her sorrow, then that can help me find salvation. So that notion of feeling your own earthly sorrow can help you, lead you up toward the heavenly feeling. That's one of those aspects of leading you upwards. All right. So both of these songs that Rotem's talked about have been in the voice of a woman. And I'll switch this onward to a poem set to music in the voice of a very famous man who was actually heavily influenced by Christine de Pizan. And this is Charles d'Orléans. Charles d'Orléans was the Duke of Orléans at a very difficult time. If you all know the Game of Thrones, Charles d'Orléans' time was like the Game of Thrones. His father was murdered by his uncle, and then he fought his uncle and lost, and he had to kiss the ring of his uncle. Of course, then his uncle was assassinated. Then they all went to war with England, and Charles d'Orléans was kept in England in prison for 25 years as a political prisoner. Joan of Arc, tried to free him, and Christine de Pizan wrote the first history of Joan of Arc, trying to free Charles d'Orléans and save the Orléans from the English. But when he was in prison for 25 years, he all along wrote many poems. And his poems are famous. He's both a famous French poet and a famous English poet. And when he was in prison, his wife died. And he wrote a beautiful poem, In the Forest of Ennuyeuse Tristesse, in the forest of sorrowful. Love came to me and said, "Why are you weeping?" And I said, "It's because you've taken my wife from me. You've taken everything that was good from me." He says, "You've taken all my goods away because her name was Bona. Her name was good. So you've taken my goods from me." And that poem became famous for many people set poems. It's called De dans la forêt de longue attente, in the forest of long waiting. It became a whole subject for writing poems in the circle of Charles d'Orléans. Only one of these is set to music. It's an anonymous poem called De dans la mer de longue attente, in the sea of long waiting. Now, this is anonymous, but I think it actually reflects something about Charles d'Orléans very important. First of all, Charles d'Orléans wrote poems while he was in England about how he would like to get over to the coast of France. They're love songs, but may have been political messages to people hoping to free him and helping him. And so this poem actually says, well, I'm in the middle of the sea of long waiting. I'm in the valley of desire. By the way, valley of desire is also something called an equivocation, an equivocation with the word avalanche of desire. En la vallée de désir is in the valley, but also en la avalée is in the avalanche of desire. And so every word has a double meaning throughout this poem. But what does he say? I'm on one side of the coast and danger tempts me, which is like saying erotic danger, but fear holds me back and I feel I'm going to die in the middle of the sea. He can't get from one coast to another. Interesting thing about this poem is the poem is also between two forms. It's between a ballade and a rondeau. You notice I put A-B-A-B, B-A-B-A. That is a classic ballade rhyme scheme. All of these poems are in the form of a circle, but it's actually, the poem itself is in the form of a rondeau, which is a slightly more complex form. So the poem is halfway between ballades and halfway between a rondeau. This is interesting because Charles d'Orléans wrote many of his ballades when he was in England and many of his rondeaus when he was in France. So it's halfway between two poetic forms from two different times of Charles' life. It's also a poem about his fear and hope to get back and forth, back to his place. Now, if you'll notice, with these poems, you don't say, oh, I'm afraid, I hear the music saying I'm afraid. I'm sad, I hear the music saying I'm sad. We don't find that in the same way we do in madrigals. But notice something interesting. Charles d'Orléans likes to say things like, within the house of my sorrow, putting an idée géographique with an idée émotionnelle. So in the house of sorrow, in the abyss of sorrow. Here, and he closes sometimes with two Ds, dedans. So within the sea, dedans la mer de longue attente, on a la vallée de désir. So he actually has two places, the sea and the avalanche, dedans and de désir. That's actually a really tiny detail, but that's a really important detail that you'll actually find in the setting of the song.
Hi, Adam.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You have another 5 minutes, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you. So here in this song, the two texts, da-dum, dee-da-dee-dum, be-dee-dee-do-be-da-dum, doesn't end. It goes on, ya-da-dee-do-be-da-dum. It carries it on all the way through. I'm actually going to skip this song and go straight to the next one because this is a song by Ockeghem. And this is a song called Presque Transi. And Ockeghem is talking in Presque Transi. He says, I'm almost dead, but I'm living in sorrow, the same way you've heard. And this is, you'll notice I've blocked a little song, ya bo da bo dee da da dum. That's a little snippet of this song that became very famous. And this song is about facing fortune and death. And what I'm going to tell you is that Ockeghem in this song doesn't paint the text. What does he do? He uses a whole series of things. He uses a whole series of permutations, palindromes. So he uses a palindrome, which is a motive followed by its backwards, its retrograde. He uses a motive followed by its inversion, and a motive followed by its retro-inversion. And he uses a passage here. If you look here, I'm almost dead, ya-dee-do-be-da-dum. And inversion, ya-do-be-da-be-do, wa-do-be-dum, becomes a palindrome. And so this poem is full of these kinds of patterns. But look at this. He takes the word fortune that never stops. And by the way, there's a break. Fortune, boom, it stops. It never stops. The only place fortune stops is to turn the wheel the other way. What does he do here? He turns the wheel the other way. This motive, dee-bo-bo-be-bo-bo-be-bom, if you play it both ways, it's the same. It's an image of fortune's wheel. But not only that, if you look, the first 27 pitches of that opening song, of that one voice, are actually consonant with their retrograde. Not only that, the first 34 pitches of that tenor voice are consonant with its retrograde inversion, which means if you flip it over, both voices are the same. If I were to turn this over, it would actually be the same as its original version. And the entire piece is full of passages that when they are just made pitches, they are consonant with their retrograde or their retrograde inversion. They are giant circles. And this song is all about facing fortune, facing death, and everything is in a giant circle. And I'll just show you that here's yet another passage that has that little passage where it says fortune never stops, actually is part of a giant circle that's consonant with its own backwards and forwards. You'll see that part in brackets. So if you consider this, Fortune's wheel has 4 places on it. I am the king, I used to be king, I will be the king, I am no king. It has 4 places, but every melodic pattern has 4 different versions. It's forwards, it's backwards, it's upside down, and it's upside down and backwards, and the entire song is a representation of many spinning Fortune's wheels. And it's all about the text. It's an amplification of the text. I am facing fortune and facing death. And the entire song actually is made up of tiny motives, 7-note motives that are spun in circles throughout the piece and are all consonant with each other. And so this is just one way that a composer doesn't, I'm not painting the text, but I'm amplifying the text, and the text is representing something greater. So there you have it.
Wow, thank you so much for that lecture. Amazing. Let me wow. Let me see if we have any questions. Thank you so much for that lecture. It was beautiful. Wow, I think you guys were quite eloquent. You left everybody speechless. Actually, Yara Frikmati says, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to see you again and listen to you again, Adam and Rotem.
Thank you.
Vocês têm perguntas, gente, para fazer? Well, it's...
I have just something to say. Thank you very much. Thank you both very much. That's always a pleasure to listen from you, to learn with you, and I hope you can make music together next year. And I just got a very sad allegory, if I did understand well, from the song that we are always going up and down in our lives.
Well, but this is one of the interesting things in 15th century theologia, up is down and down is up, because you're contemplating things that can't be at the same time, because you're contemplating that which can't be conceived, which is God is, yeah, so it's impossible to understand. So therefore, yes, it is up and down all the time, wheels which are going in different directions.
I think that these days we can understand the ups and downs.
That's true. Yeah, we're living that.
That's right.
Maria de Lourdes wrote on YouTube, marvelous class. And Augusto Brandão said, thank you, really good.
Thank you, Augusto.
Thank you.
Ana Paula Segurola, such a pleasure to be here. Wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here, and we hope to be in person soon.
Adam and Rotem, I just have one more question. Those rhetorical settings, what do you think about people of that time? Do you think regular people could feel that, could understand, or it was just thinking about high-level education people?
That's a really good question. And I think a lot of the rhetoric is meant for different levels. So you don't have to read the music, you can look at an image. The more educated can read. The spiritual can have a spiritual feeling to it. So it's both using all of the senses between your eyes, your ears. That's one thing. And I think also different people in different levels of their life and their education understand it in different ways. So you can understand it in a more mystical way, or in an allegory, or you can just understand it maybe directly. Oh, this is just a sad woman. Okay.
Yes. There's an idea that the oneness of the divine is this oneness, this perfect giant and all-encompassing circle. Everything trickles down like light, and some people get more than others. And there's even a notion, if I write a song, like a dirty love song, like something erotic, right, about a woman, but then I use it for sacred mass, there's a notion that some people won't be able to understand the sacred part. I'm concealing it from them. But if you're able to understand, you go up a level toward upwards. So it allows you to, if you can.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rotem. I just want to say that it's amazing that, because context is everything then to understanding music back then and right now also. So
that's true.
I think it's a good point for us to think how we relate to music nowadays, and different musics from all over that we receive, not only from around the world, but from the different places in the cities we live also. So I think it's amazing. It made me think a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Obrigado.
Obrigado a vocês. Né? So next year we must have a Middle Ages and Renaissance music course in our Música Poética 2022.
Very ambitious. Thank you for being so ambitious.
Can we also do chorinho and Rhetoric and chorinho? Choro?
Well, we did have yesterday a day for Rhetoric and Brazilian music, actually, but it was more bossa nova than chorinho.
Oh, come on, chorinho.
Yeah, chorinho is almost always sad rhetoric. People complaining, crying. That's the meaning of chorinho. It's little cry. Choro and chorinho is little cry. So
every tear is a piece of heaven, is a pedacinho de céu, right?
Yes. But it's closed after the pandemic times. Pedacinho do céu is over. Yeah, acabou. But we find another one.
Wherever Gustavo is playing, we'll go there. Gustavo Elias will chase you and find you doing some chorinho.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, people.
Now my day is complete.
Great.